Let's get into it.
They're starting to throw stones as expected, so we're gonna move to another part of the camp. All right, we're gonna move to another area. All right.
Children and their mothers. There's Mummy there. She's throwing them too.
Reintegration has been a real problem.
Pauline Hanson now. Senator, good to see you. Let's start with these ISIS brides. Do you buy this argument that Labor's not involved in the mission to bring them home?
Not one bit, Danica. What an absolutely farce that is. He couldn't even answer the question. No, I'm going to say my comments, don't know anything about it. Usually if you have nothing to do with it, you'd actually have more to say. He shut it down. He doesn't want to answer any more questions. I don't believe it. Danica, I don't care. I don't want them here. I've got no time for them whatsoever. I don't want their offspring. And the youngest one at 5 years of age, then I asked the question, they are not an Australian citizen. They were born overseas because they started bringing them back in 2019. I think this is the third lot they're bringing in. So at 5 years of age, I don't believe that we should be actually taking them. They're not Australian citizens if they're born overseas.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, recent media reports state that your government had no involvement in bringing back the ISIS-affiliated group. My community in Fowler, home to large Assyrian, Chaldean and Mandaean and Hasidic communities who were all persecuted and subjected to genocide by the ISIS regime, is rightly terrified. Will your government give my community in Fowler an absolute guarantee that none of the returned ISIS-affiliated women and children will be settled in our community?
Call to the Leader of the House. Order, members on my left. Leader of the House has a call.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. And I thank the member for Fowler for raising the issue in the House. Those opposite have given the impression in the media they were going to, but once they get in here, appear for some reason unwilling to raise the issue. If I start with this principle, Order. First of all, as the Prime Minister's made clear, there has been no repatriation. So when the question at the end of that for the member for Fowler refers to the government settling people, the government is not settling people. The government is not involved in settling people. What we have is a situation where we have a number of Australian citizens who made a terrible decision, an absolutely dreadful decision, to go off and join others who were involved in what has been described as one of the most horrific organisations that the world has seen. And
so they've gone to do terrorism, and that means if the government, the Australian government, brings them back, they're accessories to the fact. They're letting people go out of the country to carry out terrorism activities and then helping them to come back. That's not good enough, viewers. That's not what the Australian people want. Why is he there? Why is Tony Burke welcoming people from Palestine?
Go back, please!
What's he doing?
Go back! Please go back! Go back!
So after fast-tracking some 3,000 visas for Palestinians, Tony Burke disgracefully plays the race card after being caught on film at the airport greeting Gazan refugees. Of course, Gaza is controlled by the terrorist group Hamas. This looks like a blatant exercise in vote harvesting. So perhaps Mr. Burke can explain why he was there, how many Gazans are coming to our country, what security checks are being made, and whether Australians can be confident no supporters of terrorism are coming to our country. Tony Burke needs to stick to his day job.
Yeah, and we don't know about security checks, and it's all very wonderful to see families reunited. We all know that everybody would love to get out of that situation and be here. But Australia's taking far more than any other country. Why? And what security checks are in place? Are we vulnerable?
Well, we don't know, other than we can only assume this is for blatant domestic purposes. Mr Burke's claims that my legitimate questions are all about the Liberals adding Gazan families to the list after coming after people of Indian and Chinese heritage are absolutely reprehensible.
And joining me now is Acting Shadow Home Affairs Minister James Paterson. James, as you heard there, Albanese said these ISIS brides have a right to enter Australia because they're Australian citizens. Do you agree? And did he have other options available to him?
Shari, the Prime Minister's responses on this issue have been contemptuous from the very start, and he is now being badly exposed. The truth is that the reports in The Australian and your reports were completely accurate, and he has potentially misled the House there, a very grave offence. And it's also true that the government did assist these people in their return in two respects. In order for those children who were born to Australian parents overseas to come to Australia, they first have to apply for citizenship by descent from the Department of Home Affairs. And once that is granted, they then have to apply for a passport from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Otherwise, they can't board a plane and they can't enter our country. Clearly, those two things have happened, and therefore the government has assisted their return. But secondly, there was an option available to the government to stop them from returning. The Parliament has given the Executive Government of Australia the power to apply for a temporary exclusion order to prevent an Australian citizen who's travelled overseas to associate with a terrorist organisation from returning to our country. I'd be grateful if you could. So the Minister has said that meeting was to request the government repatriate people from Syria, and that the Minister said no. Was any other means of these people returning to Australia discussed at that meeting, to the best of your recollection, Ms Foster?
Sorry, Senator, was any other
means of these people returning to Australia discussed?
Not to my recollection, no.
Right, so it wasn't discussed that Save the Children might facilitate their return instead of repatriation?
Not to my memory, Senator, no.
And it wasn't discussed that these people may find their own way home without repatriation?
Not to my memory, Senator, no.
Were any questions asked of how the department would deal with a citizenship by descent application?
Senator, I don't recall any detail other than the broad context that Senator Murray has given you.
Right.
Can you see how deliberately clueless and ignorant these people are? They're just keeping the public in the dark because they know they're doing wrong.
So you can't tell me whether or not facilitation of a citizenship by descent application was canvassed in that meeting?
Not to my recollection, Senator.
Were any obstacles to this cohort returning discussed at the meeting?
Not to my knowledge, Senator. Not to my recollection.
Right, so Save the Children made their pitch. We think these people should come home. We think the government should repatriate them. Why did the Minister say that the government would not repatriate them?
I'd have to take that on notice. I don't know what reason was given.
Happily, we don't need to rely on you taking on notice because Ms Foster was there. So Ms Foster, what did the Minister say to Save the Children to explain why the government would not be facilitating repatriation?
Well, that might have been terrorism.
Senator, I just indicated I don't recall any particular detail being discussed. I just remember the broad thrust, which is as Minister Watt has described.
Okay, so she's corrupt along with Murray Watts as well. Okay, next. Okay, so here's the next part of the Let's Hide the Bringing Back the Terrorist Brides to Australia Act.
And published the original report on the Australian's website. It was a Tuesday during a sitting week, reporting that these ISIS brides will be returning to Australia. The next day, Wednesday the 3rd of September, the Prime Minister was asked about this in question time, and he said those reports are not accurate. What about those reports was not accurate?
I would want to take on notice, I haven't gone back a month ago and looked at precisely what was in those reports that was not accurate. So I'd want to do that before answering your question precisely, Senator Paterson.
Well, presumably...
No, I don't. There's no presumably. I don't presume. He's made a response in the Parliament to...
Senator Wong, you don't even know what my presumably applies to.
Senator Patterson, you've asked a question.
I have not, actually. I have not. I was asking a question and the Minister interrupted me.
So, but my...
I said, well, presumably, and then I was interrupted. Perhaps let me finish my question, Minister, and then you may understand better rather than speculating about what my question might be.
Well, no, Senator Patterson, let's try not to be quite so combative.
You don't need to have...
The Minister was trying to explain
Senator
her
Cash
rationale.
and I have been getting along well, so let's not change the tone.
Pardon me?
So even Senator Cash and I have been getting along well, so let's not change the tone, shall we?
Presumably, if the Prime Minister was able to say in question time on the 3rd of September that those reports were not accurate, that sometime prior to the 3rd of September he was briefed on the possible return of ISIS brides to Australia. Is that a reasonable assumption?
Everything after presumably is not a question appropriate for the Parliament, so I'm not responding.
Is not a question appropriate for the Parliament?
Sorry. Everything after presumably is your hypothetical, so I'm not responding to it.
Right, well, I'll ask the officials then. How was the Prime Minister able to say in the House of Representatives on Wednesday the 3rd of September that those reports were not accurate if he had not been briefed on the matter?
Okay, that's
a very good question.
I understand your discomfort.
No, it's not. I think it's just a sort of a clever way of asking the same question.
Thank you,
That's
Senator
all.
Wong. It's very kind, but I'd rather just...
I wasn't
Clever
actually...
in a catch
Clever
about
can
kind of
be.
way, I think.
Clever can be both ways, but I take it positively. I'm fine with that. But you've asked your primary question asked me to confirm what was wrong with the reports. This is a report from a month ago. I don't recall all that was in that. And to give you a clear response, I have taken that on notice. You're now proceeding to ask a set of questions, assuming a set of knowledge and here at this table of all of the details of that 3rd of September report. We've taken the primary question on notice. Now, you can continue to ask questions, but you would not be surprised, Senator Patterson, if we're likely to say something similar.
I don't have the Hansard in front of me from Senate question time that week, but if my memory serves me well, I think similar questions were put to you, Senator Wong, and I think you told the Senate that those reports were not accurate. So how did you know the reports were not accurate?
Senator, these are not my estimates. I'm here representing the Prime Minister.
Right. So you're not prepared to answer that?
No, but no, Senator, please. You know there are... I know you want to make, a thing today. I'm here representing the Prime Minister and this portfolio today. You have plenty of opportunities on Friday. If you wish to come, I'm sure there'll be a big cast of coalition senators there to ask me questions about statements I've made.
Again, I'll have to check whether my memory serves me accurately, but if I'm right, I suspect we were asking you those questions in your capacity representing the Prime Minister.
Correct.
So are you not prepared to answer questions today about statements you have made in the Parliament representing the Prime Minister?
No, I am prepared to answer many questions today. I may not be prepared to give you the answers that you want.
Not one question's been answered. Not one.
Senator Wong, I have sat with you on this side of the table in Senate estimates for many years.
Weren't you on this side?
No, I've never been on that side of the table.
Okay.
But I have sat with you on this side of the table for many years. In fact, I was in Senator Grogan's chair for a while you were in here. You never felt the need to restrict yourselves to budget matters when you're on this side of the table.
No, and
are you seriously suggesting that we can only ask questions about the budget in this forum?
No, I'm just making the point that it isn't a free-for-all in here. The report, I've just been sent the PM's answer. So this was Ms Lay's question. I refer to reports in The Australian that government officials are helping to bring these individuals who are described as ISIS terrorist brides to Australia PM, these aren't ordinary citizens, etc., etc. What actions has your government taken to guarantee the safety of Australians if these people return? And the Prime Minister said these reports are not accurate.
The Prime Minister has said the government did not provide assistance. Does the Prime Minister consider providing citizenship by descent to be assistance?
The government...
Okay, so at this point she's in a corner.
The government has been
caught.
clear that we are not providing assistance to repatriate, and there is no plan to repatriate these individuals. Public servants, officials, acting in accordance with their obligations, I think is a separate matter.
Okay. So, does the Prime Minister or the government consider providing a passport to someone overseas to constitute assistance?
I'm sorry?
Does the government consider providing a passport to someone overseas to be assistance?
Again, that's a matter for DFAT.
No, I'm asking you about the Prime Minister and the government's view. He's made statements on the public record that the government has not provided assistance. I'm trying to determine what he believes assistance constitutes, and does that include providing a passport?
It is.
The coalition is demanding clarity over whether so-called ISIS brides have returned to Australia. Live now to our political correspondent Cameron Redden, who's in Canberra. Cam, I see this has been a feature of Senate estimates today. What else do we know about this cohort?
Yeah, a reminder for viewers too, Ashley, this cohort is a group of people, predominantly they are women, many in some cases Australian citizens who left Australia to go to Syria, often accompanying ISIS fighters or individuals who ended up fighting alongside ISIS and have been there for some time. The estimate was that around 40 Australians had been there. It's been reported though in recent weeks that a small group, as many as 6, had then smuggled themselves out of Syria and made their way back to Australia. That hasn't been confirmed publicly by authority.
And just let me say, the probable reason for this is their husbands have been killed.
It has been, though, reported in the media. The coalition's been attempting throughout the course of today, over several hours of questioning of the Prime Minister and Cabinet Department, to try and determine, first of all, whether these individuals have now arrived on Australian soil, and in particular, exactly how many, if so, it's been known have returned to Australia. We can show you some of this questioning. Much of it didn't get much further than being taken on notice by the Foreign Minister.
How many of the ISIS brides are now in Australia?
We would not provide commentary on individual cases.
I'm merely asking for a number.
I understand the question, Senator. I would just say that we wouldn't provide details on individual cases.
Senator Wong, is the Prime Minister aware of how many ISIS brides are now in Australia?
I will take that on notice.
Is the Prime Minister aware if the ISIS brides and their children are now back in Australia?
It is well known that there are individuals who are seeking to return to Australia. Obviously, there are community and some third parties who have been advocating for these people. Agencies are aware of who the persons of interest are, and agencies are satisfied that they're prepared if any of these find their way home.
That's just corruption.
That questioning ongoing in Senate estimates at the moment. The Prime Minister was asked about this at a press conference in Canberra yesterday. While not explicitly confirming that some people had made it home, he did make this observation that the government, in his view, has had no role in assisting any of those so-called ISIS brides in returning to Australia.
Australia did not provide assistance. The Australian citizens, of course, have the right to enter Australia. That's what occurred.
Even if they've been helping terrorism, even if they've been assisting terrorists, mate. That's not a Prime Minister. That is a weak political career activist that's found his way into being the Prime Minister, and our country is in a very bad way. We've supported the Palestine thing. He's done nothing about protecting the Israeli people. He's tried to do the Palestine state gig, which made a complete mockery of our country, the majority of which did not want anything to do with it. He's a career political activist that's found his way into being the Prime Minister, and it's a disgrace.
Ashley, we can expect a great focus on this throughout the course of the week from the Coalition in that first Senate estimate since the election. The Home Affairs Department up tomorrow and DFA.
So there you go. It's a joke. It's never going to get any better. Terrorism's going to run wild in Australia, in cell domestic groups. People will explode. It's part of their culture. My background's from the Middle East and Aboriginal as well. People don't understand that trying to integrate these people's almost as easy as getting a peace deal. And let's see how well that works out. It's not going to work out. What do you think? Is this government corruption supporting people that support terrorism or not? I'll leave that decision up to you.